Hello and welcome. Today's job is to try, we'll find out if it works or not later, to improve the movement of the windows on the passenger side. My driver's side is fine, my passenger side is very stiff. So I'm going to plug the battery and just show you what I'm talking about, and then we'll take off the door card and have a look about, try to readjust the rails probably, to see if this can move better. So we'll get started with that. So that's the motor going down by itself, and you can see how difficult it is to come down. And it's not coming up at all now. Right, so that's how stiff it is coming up. As you see, it's really slowly coming up. So something okay. Well, that's quite the demo actually. Now admittedly the battery is not on full power, but this is just not acceptable because the battery is actually strong enough to start the car. So there's definitely something wrong with the mechanism, so I'm going to take the door card out and then find out what can be done about it. So yeah, let's get started with that. Now I reckon I already done a video on removing the door card, but this is going to be just a quick reminder. There's these two panels that need to come out plus that, and then there's multiple bolts across the bottom here, and there's a few here, there's two here if I'm not mistaken, another one there, and then there's two from behind, and then there's that little one that is always hell to get to, and there's three over there. Now in my case, I've already done some work around this, and what I have done is get new parts to replace this, so my interior isn't factory. And you can see there's one bolt there, two bolts over there, and then this one here I have put it back together using Velcro, which makes my life a lot easier than what you get from the factory. As you can see, that comes out as one piece. This is just a piece of wood with a foam and leather, or in my case vinyl. And you can see all of the bolts here. Now I have Allen keys on there, you probably won't, but this is all stainless, it's all been improved by myself. So I'm gonna start by removing the little red clip, see if I can salvage that one. I've done it in the past multiple times, so I'm confident I will. And then we'll continue with the rest. Right, as far as the red clip is concerned, what I always try to do is use one of these precision screwdrivers and try to prise it off, which it worked just fine because my red clip never dried out. So yeah, that's that one out. That was fairly easy. As you can see here, hopefully this will focus effectively. Oopsie. Come on, focus here. Come on, focus. As you can see here, I have tiny bits of cuts there, so that makes it easier to prise the red clip. And the thing is, when I install the red clip, I make sure that the tabs are aligned with those two little cuts, so that it prises off from the top easier. If I installed it this way around, it would be trouble. So it's important for me to reinstall it like this. Well, I guess since we're here, we might as well get that bolt out. That's the screw, that's the plastic clip. Right, now we're on the door handle bit. Now the door handle is a particularly sensitive place because it usually breaks. So it's difficult to show because there's a bolt over there which is behind the handle itself, and that's the one that in both my cars is broken, and what I have is a washer in there to spread the load and not put a lot of force onto the plastic so that I don't damage the plastic more. So as you see, I do have a washer as well as the bolt, as the screw itself. And now in order to remove it, you need to open the lock and then try to prise it out and forward at the same time, and it's a bit of a tight fit, which makes it awkward to remove, but with a bit of luck you won't be breaking the tabs. Now in this door I don't have the tabs broken, but on the other door I actually broke one of the tabs when removing, and you can see here, hopefully the camera is focusing on more or less this place, but let's see if I can bring this closer. You can see here that I have broken it already, so there's cracks around there and everything, but yeah, no one sees it anyway. But that's the door card, the door handle out. And now the next bit about it is something that it's practically impossible to show because I can't put the camera in the correct angle, but there are two more screws here, two more bolts here, which I need to remove, and these hold a metal bracket that actually holds the door card out. So those two bolts are out, and now it's the matter of removing the door card. Now the way to remove the door card that works for me, it's to prise out the bottom and then lift. So I hold it like this. Let's see if I can position the camera in a more helpful manner. Right, so I hold it by the handle, prise off the bottom a little bit, and then lift. And as I'm lifting, I'm trying to pull out as well so that it comes loose from there, from the rubber there, and that's it, that's out. Right, the next thing that I'm going to do is just get access to the glass. So these three panels need to come out. Right, so now that I've got all of the covers out, I can start taking my lights on and looking at what's going on, why is this so hard, and try to probably readjust all of my or some of the rails. So I'm gonna just try this, lower it, and see if anything makes sense. So what is making it harder to move? Right, I'm gonna clean the guides first, lubricate them again, and then give it another go. But in the meanwhile, I'll switch off the battery so that I'm not killing it. Right, so I've repositioned the camera now and switched off the battery, and got some degreaser and just a rag. I'm gonna clean these up as much as I can, and we'll take it from there. I was recently told that if you use silicone lubricant, particularly the spray stuff, it attracts the dirt. I was told attract the dirt. I suspect that the dirt sticks to it, and you know, it doesn't leave. And I have been using the spray silicone stuff to grease this stuff for the past couple of years. So what I'm going to try to do this time is not use the spray silicone stuff. I'm going to use something else. I'm going to use white lithium grease, because what I've seen in the past is that every time you have a nylon bushing or a nylon gear, you have white lithium grease. So that's what I'm going to use to lubricate this in a minute. But for now, I'm just going to clean this up with a toothbrush, and then try to grease them up and just test them again. Right, so here I have some white grease, white lithium grease. As far that's at least what they sold me, and it certainly looks like the kind of stuff that you see inside of the motors that have nylon gears. So I'm just going to put some of this in every single one of these by hand. Just spread it as much as I can by hand, and then plug the battery back, and hopefully this will be a noticeable improvement. Okay, so I've greased everything using the toothbrush to spread the grease as much as possible. I think that I've got it as far as it can go. In the meanwhile, the battery has been charging for roughly 15 to 20 minutes, so that will give you a little bit more humph to move. And well, for a starter, it's actually moving down anyway. So what I'm going to do is to just plug the battery again, try to lower this, raise it, and see if there is an improvement. And I don't really, I'm hoping that the grease makes the improvement and we're done with the video here. But I don't really expect this to work. And that will then bring us into adjusting the rails. Because that definitely has worked in the past for me. So we'll plug the battery, try to lower it, try to raise it, and see what happens. Okay, that's definitely not improving much. Right, there's nothing obvious causing the trouble here. Maybe the motor, it's on its way out. That wouldn't be impossible. Right, I'm gonna adjust this rail, give it a little bit of movement, see if anything improves. And you can see that it's still a bit stiff, but it's greased up, so, this is moving better, but it's still not really getting there. I've already tried to adjust the rails to a certain extent, but there wasn't really a clear improvement. So what I'm going to look into now is to adjust the offset of the tilt of the window. Now, this is a bit of an odd one for me to do because there are multiple things going on at the same time. There is the position of the rails on the bottom where you can space them out and in, and that increases the tilt. But there is also these two brushes which I may need to actually loosen up because they may be squeezing the window, and that may be the whole problem. Now both of these are actually quite far in, and I'm not sure if they're currently touching or not, so I need to figure that out, but they seem to be touching right now. Yeah, I believe they are. Right, so these brushes are putting pressure on the glass. I'm gonna loosen these two and see if the movement improves, because I may not need to actually do anything with the tilt mechanism. Right, let's see what happens now. That is a clear improvement there. Okay, well, that turned out to be a really straightforward problem to resolve. I'm just going to reattach the brushes a little bit further back than they were before. Just a tiny smidge. Let's see how this goes. Okay, that is still in the way. I may find myself in a situation where I actually need to pull the rails closer to me so that it tilts a little bit out and it doesn't push against these brushes. There are brushes on the other side as well, and I'm assuming that those are not being touched at the moment, but it's quite difficult to see. Right, so I had a knock at the door and I had to go tend to that. So continuing with this now, let's see how this goes. I'm gonna keep track of this one moving first. Okay, that's as far as it goes. I'm gonna lock it in place. Now this one, let's see if this one moves forwards and backwards. Okay, this stuff moving down is working great. Going up, it's still a bit stiff, but it's certainly better than before. Ah, I see. Okay, this is good. This is good. So I'm going to reposition the other camera to see if I can show what I'm seeing here, and hopefully with that little bit of footage, I can show you what I'm going to address next. Now it's struggling to move up, and as you may see, it gets to a point here where it starts to tilt backwards. So it's almost as if the impression that I'm getting from this movement, let's do it again. It's that it gets to a certain point and then it starts to pushing this way, which means that the bottom rails need to come further out a tiny bit so that it's not actually pushing against, you know, the brushes that are in the door. Now hopefully there was enough to show it. But again, with this kind of problem, one important thing to note is that there isn't a lot of information about how to do this in the manuals, and I couldn't find a lot in detail on how to do this job on the forum either. I wouldn't be surprised if it does exist. It's just a matter of finding it in the middle of all of those 30 years of information. So it's a lot of trial and error for me. So yeah, let's see if I can show this with the other camera now. Right, so this is one of the bolts. Hopefully the camera, I think I'm gonna have to set the camera to have manual focus. Right, let's try that. Right, so that is one of the bolts. Hopefully that is in focus. Then the other bolt that we're looking for is not here. You can see it's not here. This one is held from the bottom with two bolts here. And it's not in focus again. Let's try to focus that. Right, so that's the two bolts that adjust this one at the bottom. And then the third one is also from the inside. Let's try to focus this again. Okay, so that is the third bolt. So I'm going to try to adjust all of these just by 1/2 mil. Right, so according to the Tarzan soundtrack, it's been about 15 minutes. And the adjustments included the top rails moving a little bit to the left and right and on the edges. I am not touching the middle one. It's actually currently loose, but this is where the lift comes from. So there is a bit that I can do here to try to make the window tilt in a certain direction. So you may have seen from the fast forward footage that I was holding the window and tilting it to forward and backwards to see which way it would have moved better and how that affected the rail, particularly here on the front. I've not done it with the back, but I probably should have done it. And I've now tightened everything, or everything that I can think of, apart from this one. And this one, I'm just gonna give it a few more runs up and down and see if there is any position that is easier to flow or not. And that will probably affect how the window actually tilts as well. I have greased this already, as you've seen from earlier in the footage, but I get the impression that it's not very well greased, even though I can see the grease smearing out. And I'm pretty confident that the toothbrush did a good job. So I'm not quite sure how to improve this any further. However, I'm just going to use it again. I'm just going to see if I can tilt this a little bit up. Let's see if I can get this to give a better view. Right, so this is how quickly it moves right now. And remember that this is with the battery as it stands without the engine running, so the battery is a little bit on lower voltage than what it would have been when the engine is running. Now I'm happy with that time to lift and time to lower. This is miles and miles ahead of what it was originally. So I'm going to consider this adjustment to be a success. And you may have seen a different video that I've done where I touched this again. You know, the other video was on the other side. I actually had it all right on this side back then, and it's just gone out of sync or something. I don't know. These things do wear over time, so it's not that surprising. So yeah, to keep things short, these brushes needed to be adjusted, and the tilt of the glass, I'm pretty sure that I took it out and put it exactly where it was originally. But there was a little bit of adjustment. I just think that it ended up where it started, but there may have been a bit of adjustment there. And then there was a considerable amount of adjustment on the rails position themselves. I have pushed this one a little bit in that direction, and this one was readjusted also a little bit outwards, but also a little bit inwards on the bottom. There is a bit of play over there in the bottom, which by tightening the bolt while pulling the rail, it tilted it to the side. Now, at one point, you may have seen that the window wasn't moving any higher up than here, and what was happening is that it was catching somewhere in here, and the motor could not lift it any higher than that. Now, to fix that, I had to actually fix the rail in place so that the rail wasn't moving, and then figure out exactly how much I could move it to the left and to the right. From the footage you will get just a very, very rough idea of what was happening. You know, I couldn't really explain what I'm doing, because sometimes I'm just putting pressure on towards the left, sometimes I'm putting pressure towards the right, forwards and backwards, just to figure out how it moves, if it moves any better with pressure in one direction or another. And then once I figure out which one works better, I'd lock it down and give it a few tries and see if it's any improvement or not. This is effectively a dark art, and I cannot find any way to describe this that isn't trial and error. There isn't there isn't a way that I could explain it that would have been, or that I can do it myself, that is even in a method. So I can't even say to people, go and do this rail first, set it to whatever best it is, and do the one in the middle. There isn't really a way because everything works together, and sometimes a change in here is that makes it worse actually makes it better, because what you had was a big problem on this side. So by adjusting both sides as you go along, you can come up with a solution. But the biggest issue that I had was actually the brushes pushing against the window as the window was moving up, and they were actually effectively adding a lot of resistance to the movement. And moving the brushes, well, this one was moved 2, maybe even 3 millimeters back, where this one is almost in the same spot where it was before, and that was already a huge difference. But yeah, right, let's not kill this. Right, so I'm quite happy with this end result. I can now put everything back together and move on with something else. So I guess this is one of those, thank you for watching, subscribe, all of that crap, you know, give me money on YouTube, and I will see you in the next video.